WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Zaninjor and Wameka, in for Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. All right, this week, thousands of people from all over the country are coming to Boston to celebrate the 114th NAACP National Convention. It runs from the 26th through the 31st, and they're going to hear from speakers such as Vice President Kamala Harris, rapper Meek Mill, and Boston's own Chief of Environment, Energy, and Open Space, Mariama White-Hammond. There's going to be workshops, social events, all aimed at fostering community and advocacy in Boston and across the country. Now, Boston actually has a long history with the NAACP, but it's been decades since the organization held its convention here. So we've got NAACP Boston Branch President Tanisha Sullivan here to tell us more about the convention and what it means for the city. Tanisha, thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me, Senator.
It's good to talk to you. So, Tanisha, first off, I got to ask you to clear something up for me. Is it still NAACP or NAACP? I've heard both. So which is it?
Well, this has to be one of the top 3 questions I'm getting. And so what I will say to folks is you can choose. It can be NAACP or NAACP. I think what you'll find is that many of the leaders of the NAACP who have been in the organization for quite some time will actually state it as an acronym. So you'll hear NAACP, which stands for National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which is the official name of the organization.
Okay. So I might switch back and forth between both. I feel like NAACP is kind of the classic way I've always heard it.
Yes.
So I might throw that in there as well.
And you'll hear the same from me too. So it's all good.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page there. This is actually a bit of a return to Boston for the NAACP. So the National Convention was hosted in Boston about 40 years ago. So I'm wondering, what does it mean to you, the local NAACP chapter, to host the National Convention this year in Boston?
It's true. The National Convention has not been in Boston since 1982. And certainly, I say this as a 4th-generation Bostonian, we know that we're not the Boston of 1982. Deeply steeped in the racial strife and tension of the 1980s, but we also recognize that we're not quite where we want to be. We still have work to do here in the Commonwealth and here in the city of Boston to ensure that everyone has access to the great opportunities that exist here. And so I'm looking forward to the Boston branch helping to tell our story, being honest about our history, being proud of the progress that we've made, but really being humble in the work that we still have to do.
Got it. That's really interesting. And what is the NAACP National Convention? What are the goals of it, and who's all going to be there?
Well, the NAACP convention is an annual convening of the association. So various units from across the country, like the Boston branch, come together on an annual basis for our business meeting. During the convention, we will discuss, debate, and decide on our public policy positions for the coming year. We will debate issues, of course, in the climate justice space, education, economic opportunity, community well-being and public safety, and of course, voting rights. But of course, during an NAACP convention, we have the opportunity to engage with the community in which we're meeting. And so I'm really excited that this year in Boston, we're introducing a new concept. It's called NAACP at the Hub. The Hub will be at the Convention Center July 28th to July 30th. And it's really going to be the place within the convention where the public has the opportunity to come on in. It's free to come on in and experience the NAACP. There will be workshop discussions, forum discussions, a retail hub. Of course, there's food and entertainment. We're really excited as a Boston branch. We'll be hosting a career summit on Saturday afternoon to introduce participants to several of the growth industries here in the Commonwealth.
You say that we still have work to do here. What does that work look like specifically?
Well, I mean, the reality is we still have a public education system that is not meeting the needs of all of our children. We have far too many children who are not able to read at grade level. We still have far too many of our students who are not able to access the type of education we know they need in order to be college and career ready. We also know that here in the city of Boston, we've got a lot of work to do on the economic opportunity side. We have many small Black-owned and other people of color-owned businesses that are simply not getting access to the contracts they need for their businesses to thrive. We also know that health disparities, unfortunately, are still a challenge for us here. We are the mecca of healthcare, and yet far too many people of color, far too many Black residents in the city of Boston have not been able to access that world-class healthcare because it is having an impact on life expectancy. And there's absolutely no reason why here in the city of Boston, everyone who lives here shouldn't have access to high quality healthcare that allows them to live, work, and thrive.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Politics has never been stranger or more online, which is why the politics team at Wired is making a new show, Wired Politics Lab. It's all about how to navigate the endless stream of news and information and what to look out for. Each week on the show, we'll dig into far-right platforms, AI chatbots, influencer campaigns, and so much more. Wired Politics Lab launches Thursday, April 11th. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, we're back. I want to step back a little bit here, back in time, because Boston actually has a really deep history with the NAACP. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, we're very proud here in the Boston branch of the NAACP to be the first charter branch in the association. The NAACP was founded in 1909 out of the Niagara movement. And from the very beginning, Bostonians have played an integral role in the formation and the advancement of this organization. The Boston branch received its charter in 1911 at the Park Street Church. And the very first national president of the NAACP was Moorfield Story, an attorney here in Boston. I will also say, as a woman in leadership in the NAACP, which is not the norm, even in 2023. Here in the Boston branch, we have the distinction of having the first woman to serve as a branch president come out of the Boston branch. Her name was Florence Lesor, an educator, and of course, a Bostonian who was deeply committed to racial justice, gender justice, and the advancement of all people.
Wow. So, I mean, with so much history tied to Boston and the NAACP, how come it took so long to bring the convention back here?
Well, I think we've got to be honest. I mean, there are some practical reasons relative from an economic standpoint. Boston is certainly a convention destination, but it is also an expensive convention destination. But we also need to be honest about the fact that Boston still has a reputation of being the most racist city in the United States of America. And the NAACP is a convention that really speaks to Black America and centers Black America. And so coming to Boston after 1982, when there was so much racial tension and racial strife, the association did take its time. I do believe that when convention delegates arrive in Boston, we have an opportunity to reintroduce ourselves. We have the opportunity to share the work that we've been doing to help Boston become a more inclusive community. And we also have the opportunity to learn from others so that we can achieve our aspiration of being not only a diverse city, but an inclusive city.
You mentioned before this convention, there's a business aspect to it. It's also, a huge national focus. I'm wondering, are there some aspects of it that are focused on what's happening in Boston locally or highlighting the work that's happening here?
Yes, we're very fortunate that what attendees can expect to see is definitely a local element to virtually all of the conversations. I will also lift up, and this is at this point a little hot off the presses, I must say. We have this week on Thursday a civic engagement boot camp that is kicking off with organizers, NAACP organizers from across the country participating right alongside some of our Boston area grassroots organizers. They'll be in a day-long training together at the Boston Teachers Union on Thursday. And then on Friday, they are going into our communities of Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan to meet with other local grassroots organizations to learn more about some of the issues confronting residents here in the city of Boston and what our local grassroots organizers are trying to achieve through their advocacy.
So that's Thursday. Now, back in June, I covered the press conference that previewed the convention, and NAACP National President Derek Johnson explained the theme, Thriving Together. Here's a clip from that.
Our theme this year, Thriving Together, highlights the shared goal to thrive in spite of efforts to restrict rights. Not only rights for African Americans, but rights for citizens across the board. And if the first 6 months of this year had been any indication, the Black community needs the full power of the NAACP. Let me correct that. America needs the full power of the NAACP.
So, Tanisha, I'm interested to know, what does this theme, Thriving Together, mean to you and the local branch you lead?
Well, Thriving Together really does speak to what we're trying to achieve. It's collective work, collective action for collective impact. This moment really does call for us to not only work together, but to ensure that each of us in our communities are experiencing the benefit of that work. We know that we are at a point in our nation's history when so much of the work that has been done to move our nation closer to the aspiration of being one in which all people have the opportunity to experience freedom, justice, and equality, that there are very real efforts underfoot today to thwart that progress. And so there has never been in our nation's history more of a need for the NAACP and the public policy advocacy of the NAACP than there is today.
Tanisha, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to seeing folks, hopefully at the Hub, July 28th through July 30th at the Convention Center.
That was NAACP Boston Branch President Tanisha Sullivan. And that's it for our show today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. Are you planning to check out any of the public events happening through the NAACP National Convention this week? Let us know. You can send us a message on Instagram at WBUR-TheCommon or shoot us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. For now, I'm Zaninjor Enwemeka in for Daryl C. Murphy, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.